Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Unplugged Woodworking's podcast. So what have I been up to? Well, I'm still on with the chair. I haven't had like a great deal of time on it, to be honest with you. I am trying to record the process of making the chair. It's not going to be greatly detailed. It's just going to be more me, like just woodworking basically. But obviously, I'm showing the process of doing it. I don't think I'm going to bother narrating it. For some reason, when I narrate videos, nobody watches them, and then when I don't narrate them and I don't really put a lot of effort in, everyone seems to watch them and then complain that I haven't narrated them. Ironically, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm gonna be doing that. But with the bad weather, I haven't been able to do a lot because I've needed to be outside. The lighting in the shed is really poor. The sound quality in the shed is really poor. I don't suppose that's much of an issue, considering I'm not going to be narrating anything or speaking on camera. But yeah, that's what I have been doing. But today I also made some wooden holdfasts. It was mentioned by someone. Well, it was actually mentioned by a couple of people who are following. They follow me on Instagram. Just talking about holdfasts. So just to spare the moment today, I just thought I'd make some and see how they turned out. I made two of them. I tried different angles. The more steep of the angles seemed to work better. And these pictures of these on me Instagram if you want to go and check them out. And I did. I couldn't actually wait, so I did. Even before they were glued, before they were wedged, they were still loose. And there's actually a short video of this on my Instagram and my Facebook if you want to check it out. I literally slide them together and I use them to clamp a piece of wood down, to hold a piece of wood down, and I get me rip and I go hell for leather through this through this piece of oak, and they were bang on. They held really well. Me Roman workbench is moving all over the place. I'm really putting some welly into this, into this saw, and it's been raining a lot, so the ground's a bit stodgy. So that's why the Roman bench was like moving all over the place. But these holdfasts, they held a piece of work down there excellently. So if you wanna check that short video out, it's only about a minute video. You can check that out on my Instagram. I did as well make a video of it. This was just a quick video. Same again, there's no narration to this. It's just me woodworking, basically showing you the techniques and whatever, how I've done this. And they're not very hard to make. They're quite easy. There's probably going to be a Mark II, a Mark III, and a Mark IV probably, because I can see a few problems that might crop up, and I can see some improvements what I could make. But as you are with the video that I did shoot, they are very usable. Just what I've shown. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description so you can check that out. If you listen to this on Spotify, you might be better just going onto the YouTube channel. As I've said the last couple of podcasts, for some reason Spotify just clumps all my links together. I have no idea why. So it might be better if you're using Spotify. It might be better just to go straight to YouTube and just search the video. If you try searching building wooden holdfasts with hand tools, my video should come up if you want to check it out. That is. Okay, so today I mentioned this last week and nobody's got back to us with any questions or anything, or any topics they want us to talk about. So as I said, I'm gonna start doing possibly for the next 3 to 4 weeks or 3 to 4 episodes. It's just going to be an in-depth talk into joints, I'm going to do one per episode. I don't know how many I'm going to do. This is going to be pretty in-depth. I'm just going to describe how I mark the piece out and what techniques I use, maybe a few pointers. There's probably going to be a lot I'm going to forget. I have wrote quite a lot of notes down, but I've probably missed out some stuff. But I am going to be quite detailed with this, so some people's eyes may start glossing over. So like I said, this is going to be maybe for the next 3 to 4 weeks. If there's a lot of people that really don't like this, as I always say, pop us an email, tell us what you want to hear, or leave a comment in my social media on Instagram, whatever, and just let us know. And while I remember, if you want to support the show, there's teas and there's hoodies, and you can leave a small donation if you should choose to. Every little donation is welcome. Okay, so I'm gonna get cracking straight into this because I've rabbited on enough. So this talk today is going to be on the Mortice and Tenon joint. Okay, so with this, I'm talking on the presumption that the material that I'm using is square, it's been planed, and it's perfect, pretty much, whatever way you want to look at it, if it's been machined or if you've done it yourself. This is where I'm coming from. So in this example, I'm going to be talking from, let's just say I'm making a table. So we're going to have a rail of the table, and the rail of the table is going into the table leg. Table leg's just going to be, your bog standard square at the top. You could do anything after that, but it's going to be square at the top. It's going to be, for this example, we're just going to see something like 4 inch by 4 inch. You get the picture anyway. Okay, so this is my method. This is how I do it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. Use what you find useful and discard what you don't. So I'm going to begin. So my preference is to always do the mortises first. The reason I do the mortises first, because if you're cutting your mortises and you go past your line, it's not going to be the end of the world, is it? Type of thing. So when you come to cut the tenon, you've got to be a little bit more cautious because you've took extra off, which doesn't really make a great deal of difference. The way I do it anyway, because I don't mark the mortise and the tenon out at the same time. I think that's a bit silly, but anyway, so I mark the mortise out first. So when I do this, I always leave extra on the leg. So what this is for is when you actually do cut the tenons and you're fitting the tenons, sometimes it might be a bit big in length. Sorry, not in length, it might be a bit big in width. So if you try to force it in, and I have actually done this in the past, I've done it a couple of times in the past, well, more than a couple of times in the past. In my younger years, I've actually cracked the top, I forced material out, and that's because it's quite close to the edge, and you're forcing that out. Whereas if you've got extra material on, you cannot really force that out, if that makes sense. So I always leave extra on. So basically, is what I would do. I would square a line around, and then obviously that would give us me final length for the leg, because obviously we're going to be leaving extra on. Then from there, I would draw square my lines all the way around for the tenant. I wouldn't. Some people use knife holes all the way around for. Well, I've seen it done. Like, I don't know why you would do that. Like, but just put a pencil line there all the way around. Also mark your faces where your tenant's gonna go. Sometimes there can be a little discrepancy. I did for this argument's sake, for this example, I did say it was going to be 4 inch by 4 inch. Sometimes there can be a little discrepancy. So sometimes most of the time, all the time, it is better to get your face marks on, just kind of so you know where you're coming from. I mean, if you've done this yourself, you should have face marks on it anyway, just to let you know where you've squared from. So once I've squared all the way around, then I'll get a mortise gauge, and I'll set the mortise gauge up. So say we're doing a mortise, and the mortise is 1/2 inch. So what I would do, I would get the chisel and put the chisel in between the 2 points on my mortise gauge, and then put it to the workpiece. So this is how I do it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people do it this way. So you would basically eye the 2 dots in to where it would be centralised, where your mortise would be centralised. You would put that in, and you would bring your fence up to the edge of the workpiece, and you would nip it just a little bit. Bearing in mind this would already be nipped just ever so slightly, just to stop the 2 points from moving. So once you've got the 2 points in place, bring your fence up, nip it, and as what you would do then, you would transfer your fence to the opposite side and do 2 more points. So if you can imagine now, you've got 4 points. So you should have two either side. The 2 either side should be pretty close together. So then is what you do, is what I do. I basically just eye in between these 2 points at either end, and I get in the middle. So that gives us like me middle, if that makes sense. So once I've got the middle, I'll tighten the fence fully off, and then I'll get a chisel, me 1/2 inch chisel. I'll put the chisel in between the 2 points again, just to make sure it hasn't moved, because it might be too little, etc. So once I'm happy with that, I'll use the gauge. I'll do a line on one side, and then I'll do me lines on the other side. So I've talked about this before. When you're doing anything like this, you want to keep the same face. So where the fence has registered on that face, when you turn the piece over, it wants to be registered on the same face. So that either means turning the fence to the opposite side. So say you're marking out, and the fence is on your right hand side, in your right hand. So if you turn it over, it would have to go to your left hand, if that makes sense. Or you turn the whole piece over so that the bottom of the foot, the bottom of the leg would be pointing towards you, if that makes sense. It sounds like I'm complicating things. I know what I mean. I know what I mean anyway. But basically, you've that fence, if your marking gauge has got to be on the same face all the time, and that takes any discrepancies away, because it probably will be some. It will be slightly out, it might be point something of a millimetre, but sometimes these things can matter. So once I've done that, I'll repeat the same process that I used to find the how I found the center for the mortise. Well, basically, I'll turn it over. I'll turn the mortise over, and on the back of the mortise, the majority of the mortise gauges, they have just 1 point. So on one side they've got 2 points, and on the back side they've got just like 1 point. So I'll repeat that process to find the center. So you'll come in from one end, you'll do a dot, an indentation. You'll turn it over to the other face, you'll do another indentation, and in between those two indentations, you'll put like another indentation, and that'll be your center. So then is what I'll do. I'll mark the center of the mortise, turn it over, do the center of the mortise on the other side, and this is just for me brace and bits. This is just for a guide, because this is personally how I like to do them. Now, if you wanted to, you could use a chisel. I mean, there's a few methods. I just don't like doing that. I can do that, I have done that in the past. I think it's good to have the knowledge to be able to do that. For some reason, you mightn't have a bracing bit or drill bits, whatever, for some reason, but my preferred method is to use a bracing bit. So as I was saying, this centre line is just to basically start us off with a bracing bit to make sure that the bit's going to be in the centre. So just before I start drilling, I will put a knife hole at both ends of the mortise, on both sides as well. Use my chisel, create a knife valley, and then I'll get me bracing bit. Start drilling down. It depends how big the hole, the mortise hole is going to be. There'll be, it could be several holes at half an inch, and I will have these slightly overlapping each other, so I won't just have one hole and then like a couple of millimeters another hole, couple of millimeters. I don't like doing that. I like to overlap every one. It does take a bit of knack to be able to do that. I won't say I've got it down, but I do get quite consistent when I'm doing it now. It has took us a while to be able to do that, but I just find it easier when you've done this. Obviously, you pare down with a chisel after, and I just find that if you overlap each hole just by a little bit, it just makes it easier to pare down. So I'll drill several holes. I won't go all the way through, because obviously if you go all the way through, you're just going to have bust out at the other end. So I'll go just over halfway, turn the piece over, and I'll just repeat it, just drill down, and obviously you can go all the way through then. And as I said before, I just pare down with the chisel afterwards. So use your half inch to pare down each end to square that up, and I tend to use me 1 inch chisel. I think that's one of my most used chisels, to be honest. Me 1 inch chisel, I quite like that one. I don't really use the 3/4 inch very much, or the 8mm for that matter. It just tends to be me half inch and me 1 inch for some reason. But yeah, so anyway, I pared down. I do eye down, and I do try to get me two sides pretty square, as square as I can. I've never tried this method, but there's actually, you could check Paul Sellers out. Paul Sellers does something where he basically uses a piece of wood to register down and get the piece like dead on square, basically. I've also seen something similar. If you've ever seen any sort of Japanese joints being cut by a Japanese tradesperson, they'll kind of clamp a piece of wood on, and they do the same thing. They use a square piece of wood as a register edge, and they'll pay it down. I've never kind of done anything like that before, to be honest. I just prefer to do just eye things. I mean, if I wanted to be 100, like really, really precise, I probably would do something like that. But I'm touch wood. I'm quite lucky. I get pretty decent consistency doing what I do. So it ain't broke. I ain't gonna fix it. Right, where am I now? So what was I up to now? I've lost me. I've lost me place in my notes now. Right, so yeah, right. So we've finished the mortise pretty much now. So we're going to mark out for the tenon now. So for the tenon, obviously you're going to mark out the length first, and just pencil this round. I always like to pencil these round. I do go around afterwards with a knife roll, but I think sometimes if you pencil them in first and you have made a little bit of an error, me personally, if I pencil it in first and I have made an error, I tend to see that error before I start cutting. It doesn't always happen that way, but I have saved my own skin a few times by doing this, and I do like to do this. These are the reasons I mark out, say, with pencil and then go over with a knife. I don't always do it, but joints I tend to, because I like to get my joints good. So once I've got the length marked out, I'll set the marking gauge up, and the marking gauge is just exactly the same process what we've done. The only difference with marking the tenon, I will make it bigger. So I'll put the chisel in between the two points, but I'll skew the chisel ever so slightly. It can be a little bit more than ever so slightly, but basically if you skew the chisel when it's in between the 2 points, that gives you extra place, so you can rattle the chisel rounds in between the 2 points, if that makes sense. It's only ever so slightly, so that's the only difference. Then basically you would just do the same again, put the 2 points in, have a little nip on the fence, one side, the other side, and then go in between the 2 points. I described this before. So same again, keep to the same side, the same face when you're using the gauge. Mark your 3 sides out, pencil them in, and then you can start cutting. Now the good thing about leaving the extra on is that you can cut straight into your gauge lines if you're going to use a saw. Lately I have been using a saw, although I'm not like stuck in that sort of like thing where I've got to use a saw. For a long time I used to just split the cheeks, but as I said, I have been using a saw for quite some time, the Japanese saw, that is. So it's pretty much the same again. If you're going to use a saw, it's the same as a Western saw is going to be the same as like an Eastern saw. You're basically going to cut a diagonal on one side, a diagonal on the other side. So if you can imagine, inside your tenon you've got like a point, and then is what you'll do after you've cut the both sides up, so you've got that point, you'll just bring your saw square and you'll start cutting that point, and then you'll bring yourself all the way down to the shoulder, and that's kind of when you're doing that kind of, it doesn't guarantee you're going to be 100% square, but you're basically using the curve cut to keep your saw tracking, if you like. So it does help you, and that's how I was shown how to cut tenons in college, and I've pretty much done it that way ever since. So I could do it like that, and like I said, I have been doing it like that. If I don't do it like that, then I'll do it. I'll split the cheeks off with a chisel. So if you're going to do this, you do have to mark and cut your shoulders first. So if I do cut it with a saw, the next step would be that I get my marking knife. I mark the line all the way around again. Do a knife valley to accept me saw, and then I would chop down, remove the cheeks with me saw. So as I said before, if you're going to split them, you would do this process first. So when you're splitting, if anyone that hasn't ever done this before, you wouldn't go straight down to your knife, to your marking gauge line. You'd maybe come maybe halfway, and you would split one end, then you'd come to the other end, you would split that, and then you would go in the middle of the cheek and you would split that. And then you can basically see what's happening with the grain. Is the grain, when you're splitting it, is it splitting dead flat? Is it lifting up, or is it pulling down? I mean, even before you start splitting, you should be able to look at the grain. It doesn't always work this way, because obviously sometimes when you look at the grain, it looks like it could be running down or running up, and sometimes that's just not the case. This has happened to me loads of times. So if it looks pretty straight, obviously have a go of it. So if it's splitting straight, that's happy days. You can pretty much just go straight down to your line, depending on how thick the cheek is you've got to remove. I mean, if it's only somewhere like quarter of an inch, something like that, maybe 2 or 3 passes, you should get a feel for it when you're doing it. If the grain is running up, so it's kind of where you're from the chisel edge, it's kind of running along and then up away from you. That's not an issue either. You can pretty much just split that straight out, chisel that down. Although if that's happening, if it's lifting up like away and up, like up and away from you, 9 out of 10 on the other side, it'll probably mean that the cheek's going to be the grain will probably pull the chisel in, and obviously that can be a little bit problematic. So if it is actually pulling in, the only thing you could do would be to attack it from the side, which would be taking your chisel at 90 degrees across the grain. Sometimes this can work out really well, sometimes it doesn't, and I'm not a fan of doing that because I've had a few bad mishaps doing this. But me personally, if I have started splitting it and I've checked the grain looks okay, and I've started splitting it and it starts going a bit wrong, shall we say, if I can get the saw, I'll saw it basically. But sometimes you can't do that. But that's what I would do with that anyway. So once I've sawed down or pared down with a chisel, I'll check the fit. Normally with my mortices, with my tenons are always bigger than the mortices. So I still always check just in case. And then I'll just get me hand router out and just start you just start routing down. Like a couple of millimeters at a time. I think like maybe a millimeter and a half, or whatever it is, and just keep on sneaking down. I take it from both ends, and this is a good thing about about a hand router is that, or a router plane, it pretty much guarantees that the two faces of your tenon is going to be nice and straight and square. So it really it really pays to make sure that your your two faces of the mortises, the inside of your mortise sides, are like nice and square. If you look down them, you should be able to see. If you're really, really unsure and you don't think you've made a good job, you can do what I was talking about before, how put the Paul Sellers method, or the way the Japanese do it. If you really don't think you can do that, so yeah, as I said, I just keep on paring down with the router plane, and make sure it's nice and straight. So when I fit these, I do, with the rest of my joints, I do like them to be snug. I think with a tenon, I don't like to have to like really bash it down, but I do like to have to hit it down, if that makes sense. So I'm not like really bashing it down, but I do have to tap it down with a mallet. That's kind of how I like the fit. So when I'm doing this and I'm trying to fit, obviously you're only going to get so much in because you haven't cut a haunch. So when you're doing this, you're typically only trying the corners. So when I get a nice fit with the corners, I'll mark out for the haunch. I'll cut the haunch. When we saw, it takes a couple of minutes. And as what I'll do then is I'll put a little chamfer along the edge of the tenons, at the top edge, and this is just to guide the tenon in, to make sure if there's any ledges, anything you've missed inside, it's there shouldn't be too much resistance, because you've got this ever so small chamfer, and things like this I believe they do help. So yeah, as I said, you just tap it, and as I said again, I like to tap it in, but I don't like to really bray it in, if that makes sense. So when I'm happy with that, you're basically just going to add some glue, or you could draw bore it, whichever way you want to do it. I mean, I don't really draw bore, to be honest with you. I have drawn board in the past. I think, me personally, the only time I would draw bore is if I couldn't get any clamps. Like, if it was too long to clamp up. I mean, an example of this would be when I made me bed. I think there might be some videos, and there might be some footage of me actually cutting the mortise in the tenons, possibly, on my Instagram. I think there is, actually. So you could actually check that out, but that would be the only way I would use a draw bore, I think. It's not to say I don't use them, obviously they've been used for hundreds and hundreds of years. It is a good system. It's just I just don't really use it unless I kind of get a clamp on. So once I've done that, then I would wait for the glue to dry. Then I would remove that little bit extra of material, the material on the leg, for the, to stop any split out, where your haunch would be. if you put that in, and sometimes your tenon's a bit too wide, you can actually split the top. So once it's all in and glued together, and everything's happy, you would do it then. I mean, this is actually quite typical. You would see this on like cabinet doors, even front doors, interior doors, things like that. It's not uncommon to see just a couple extra inches past, but yeah, as soon as the glue is dried, just take that off with a saw. Just mark some lines around, whatever. Finish it off with a plane, and that's you pretty much done. And I think that's pretty much it. What am I done here? I think so. Yes. So yeah. I think the next podcast, possibly I might do dovetails or maybe a housing joints. I'm not too sure. I'm actually going to listen to this back, because it's as I've been doing this, it sounds like I've been making things a bit too complicated. Perhaps I'm not too sure. But I think the next, if I do another one of these, I think the next one may be a housing joints, or it could be dovetails. Who knows? But if you've got any suggestions, if you would like us to talk about anything, send us an email, leave us a comment. So as I said before, there's going to be videos. There's going to be a new video on the holdfasts. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video, guys. If you think anyone's going to benefit from it, and if you think the video's okay, of course, I'd really appreciate if you could do those things for us. It really helps us out. Again, thanks for all the new followers I've had on social media. It's been absolutely awesome. Thanks for everybody that's commented, all the kind words. It's really, really appreciated. Until the next time, I'll speak to you guys later.